Hello and welcome to this embroidery course tutorial for this finished piece that you see here. It's a combination of watercolor with needle painting. I will go through all the steps on how to make it, from painting the hoops to finishing the hoops and all the steps in between. I'm also going to put in the video every time I use a different color thread or something else. I will put it in the text in the video. So if you prefer to listen to, an audiobook or a podcast, then whenever you see something come up with text, then you know, oh, I need to change something. If not, you can also listen to me. That's also fine. As you can hear, I'm not American, I'm not English, I'm Dutch. So I'm trying to keep it as American or English as I can. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about the fabric. This is the fabric I use. It's from Trish Embroidery. Um, I couldn't find anywhere in Holland that is really nice, so I bought it from her. I saw her on Instagram, and she always has the nicest fabric. It doesn't look like fabric; it looked like paper from a distance. And all the time, if I used fabric, it was like, well, not really that tightly woven. And this is, and it's really nice, and it's really nice to paint on because it doesn't plucker, like the little fluff thingies come on it, and I really like that. So this is a great one to start. You can buy it on her you can buy it in her shop. I have a link with it. Okay, we're now gonna look at the embroidery hoop. So you have the wooden hoop and a flexi hoop. I prefer the flexi hoop to stitch on. I really do, because it's really tight and you don't have to like screw it, like steady all the time. And the wooden hoop I like to use for mounting to frame the piece. I got this wooden hoop from my boyfriend. It's from Amazon. Got it in a pack. They're both the same size. They're both 15 centimeters. I put it in a guide. I think it's 15 or 16. Yeah. And I like the wooden ones, of the flexi ones, to paint in. Also because the wood might stain and the plastic don't stain, so you can use it over and over again. With the wooden, you cannot use over and over again because it will get mushy, the wood. And yeah, and they're more expensive. So yeah, I don't know, rather do it on the plastic hoop. So you're gonna take your fabric and you first gonna get the flexi hoop. You're gonna squish it out. Take your fabric, put it on top. You don't have to have that such a big piece as me. I'm using that for the video. And then you just press. You may first make the fabric. You make it that it's nice and tight, and then you just push it over. It's better. The better technique is to just put it on the table and just push it there, rather than I'm doing. And here, so you have it. So then it's like nice and smooth, and as I said to you, it was like, it's really nice and smooth fabric. So yeah, I really like it.
Yes, so we're gonna start with painting the fabric. Make sure that it's nice and tight so that it's good to go for painting. I will have two videos for this, two different styles, so you can choose which one you like. Sorry for the autofocus. I'm not a pro at using my camera, and I was still figuring out, but I thought, why not include this? It's nice to also see this. Okay, so my paints, this is my paint that I use, that is gray, and this is the blue. I sometimes mix them to get them a bit darker, but now I'm only using the blue, which I do like. I love this color blue. What you're first gonna do is you want to take the paint with a medium-sized brush, and you first dip it in there a bit. You wet it, you put it back on a paper towel just to see that if you have the right color. You know, you never know. Then you go back and wet it again, put it in some water, and you're gonna wet it. Don't go too far up because it bleeds up a lot to the top, so you don't want to have it too much going upwards, because it's, personally I like it when it's a little bit half. So first you make sure you wet it really good. Don't go delicate, just make sure there's water on it. Use a decent amount, and don't go too far above, just make it nice and yeah, like this, like just a bit. Now you're gonna take your brush, put it in the paint, and you make a streak. See how that really is nice, how that bleeds up? You're just gonna let it do its work, so you don't have to really paint, if you know what I mean. It's more, the fibers will do its work for you. So you see here that it's gonna make that nice effect, that nice ombre like effect. This is already really nice. This is already like wall hanging. So next up you're gonna do, you make a line of water, just a line, so where you're gonna put your paint on to let it bleed up and down. Now you get your, make sure it's nice and wet. Don't go too far up. And you take your paint, put a lot of paint on it, and you go in one flow, go over it. Yeah. And then let it do its thing. And I'm gonna let it do its thing, and yeah, blend it a bit. Yep, and here is what it looks like after it's been sitting there for a while. So I don't like these really harsh lines, personally. So I like to blend it. Yeah, you blend it, you take a little bit of water and you blend it. So also take a little bit of water, because what you see there is that then you create another section of paint that goes up. It's not that delicate, you just really brush it over pretty hard so you get a nice effect. But then again, whatever you like. If you like the effect that it has already, then you can use that. So you just go over it with water. You can also go over it with a different kind of color. Just, it's also about experimenting. You can also use a little bit of fabric that that's cheaper, that you don't really want to use, just to try some stuff out. But just work with the shading, see what the paint really does. Yeah, so here you see that it's getting to the result that I like. And now I'm going to show you the second one that I'm going to use for the end. For the one for the tutorial, that's going to be the one we're going to work with. So this is going to be set aside. Yes. So here we're going to start with the one I'm going to use throughout the tutorial. It's a kind of a different technique. Yeah. So here I already have some paint on it. You just dab a little bit with some paint on it, and then you start with just water. Well, a little bit watery color with a little paint in it. And just let it bleed over each other. So it's like nice to have the bottom, to have there a little bit more paint on it, because that's also how the sea works, and underneath there's a little bit more more darker, and then in the middle you want to have it lighter. That's what I like. So here I'm gonna go slightly a bit more up. So you take your paint again. Here I mixed it a little bit with the gray, so it's a bit darker. And I let it bleed again. See? I'm gonna zoom in for you guys so you can see it. You see how the bleeding works. See that it goes up. And you see that the rest is really light. In the middle I have a little bit of paint on it. You see that it's bleeding. So you're just gonna wait a minute. Yeah. So now I'm gonna put a streak on it, a slight one. On the wet part. And then, yeah, take a bit more paint, a lot of paint. And then quickly you take water yeah, and you put it over it. And I do that because, as you see what happens here, because of the bleeding, oh, whoops, I got a little bit of purple in it. Doesn't matter, I will get over it a bit. Yeah, just blend it out. And you see what happens here? Then because of the bleeding, it looks like the water is reflecting, and that above is mountains. Well, anyway, that's like what I see a bit in it. That's like how I feel it. So it's really just controlling the water flow, where the water is going. And see it now, I'm gonna have it like pretty far up on the fabric. See, isn't it nice? Like the bleeding. I love that. You see that it's going like more downwards. And I thought it would be nice to see. Oh, yeah. No, I forgot I did this also. So I want to make it like darker than the other one. So here I'm also going to put more underneath to get it darker. And then you see what the bleeding does. I love it. It's my favorite part. Oh, this is so nice. And then you take a water and you blend it. Well, actually, you don't really, you don't need to really blend it if you don't want, because I think this already looks really pretty. But don't wait till it dries up, because now you're going to get the streaks, which are nice, but then it kind of takes the illusion away from being the sea. Yeah, so just blend it. And on top you're also going to blend it. Yeah. And now, like, you see that it's almost like going to touch each other. And you just want to have this, see what it does. And what I also really like is if you have in the middle that line. I'm going to show you in the end, but I use a pencil just to make it like a really straight line, so it looks like there's really an edge of the water. See how it all goes up and down, and the colors really nicely blend. I love watching this. I love watching paint dry. It's also really cool to do it with gray or black. Or pastel colors. It's also really cool. Yeah, now you see how it looks. From a distance. I kind of like this look because the needle painting we're gonna do is not that big, and it's nice to have then also a bit of background that is a bit more alive. But it's also nice to have it a little bit more minimal. But see how that bleeding still goes on? So cool. So it's good to stay with this process, because then you can always make changes with your brush to blend it more, because when it dries it's really difficult. But I like this because of the color variations in the back. It looks like it's mountains. I always have the tendency to do to be like, oh, it needs a bit more this, needs more that, and there when it always goes wrong. Don't overdo it, because then it goes wrong, especially if it's already getting too dry. I also want to use this to talk about what we're gonna do next. We're gonna, once it's dry, make sure it's completely dry. But let it dry in the hoop. I don't know, doesn't matter that much, but I think it's more nicer. Then the colors really set in one place. But after this, we're gonna trace the pattern. You're gonna get it out of the hoop. And you see on the sides now that there's like a color difference, because that's where the color is really has set. So you're gonna get a ring around the paint. And that's why I'm using a different, in the end, a different hoop, so you don't see that. Yeah, so you make a slide. Yeah. Slightly blend it. And keep watching what the paint is doing, if you like it. This is now almost getting too dry. So it's time for our next step already. I think, yes. So leave it to dry for a bit, and you don't have to let it dry for like a whole day, a couple hours. And then you're done with the painting. It looks so pretty. Okay. Yeah. So this is the tracing part. You're gonna want to have the design. Look, so now I'm gonna put it out of the cloth. But when you trace it, you want to use the other side, because you want to trace it on the front. So you're gonna hoop it the other way around. If that makes sense. And then you see that line there? That's where I want the design more or less to begin. See? Yeah, so I want the design to start there. This is after you traced it, because I'm gonna trace it without the paint on it, because I did that first. Wasn't really handy, but It's the same principle. But you want to hoop it a little bit different, so you have the edge a bit more to the inside, so you have more room to stitch. See? Yeah. So there's your ring of where the end of your painting is. It's going to be a little bit more to the front. And you hoop it, yeah, inwards. Like this. Yeah, so you look where you're going to place the ring. That's always a difficult part, to like really have it set good. I'm also always a bit struggling with this. Yeah. A bit more in the front. And push. Yeah, so now you have the front, the watercolor paint on the front. So now it's ready to trace. The tracing we're gonna do, you know, yeah, so there's the ring. Now the tracing comes. You're gonna print the design and you're gonna strap it on, you know, like put it on the window. Tape it on the window. Tape it, that's the word. You're gonna tape it on the window. I'll show you how I did it. Yeah, tape it on the window like this, and then you're gonna put your hoop on. I did it really fast, and then you have this, the design. This is how it is then on the window, and then also you don't, like, I use, because for the tutorial I used fine liner, because it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing. But for yourself, you can use pencil. You can first do it really light, because pencil you can still like erase away. But don't be scared if you're like, because I also miss sometimes a little bit. I'm a bit next to it, or it's not really precise. You can always fix that later. You just put a little bit more on it. And here I'm looking at the design, doing a little bit more, so it's more defined. See, with me it's not really perfect, so I can always stitch over that. And then we're gonna hoop it back onto the fabric. Oh, I just did it out of, well, that's nice, you're not really able to see it. Just a slight, yeah, you're gonna hoop it a little bit with the ring, what I said. Oh god, this is so typical. Okay, yeah, you see it there a little bit, the line, and hoop it a little bit more to the down. Well, can't really see it, but just hoop it under the line. Okay, next step.